very much, Ashok. It's a pleasure and privilege to be here on this panel. One thing which we have seen in the last couple of decades is the fact that there has been policy changes at various levels. Central government, state governments, all these ideas have made a paradigm happen which makes India, now Bharat, into a different type of entity. Number two, that the growth of the country, the prosperity of the country is entitled to reach to the bottom of the poor. And that's why the policy is created, because it's not simply wealth creation that is important. Number three, it's not about the policy, but as Ajay Mata correctly put it, it's the execution of the policy that becomes extremely important. And that is why the lady and two gentlemen who are sitting here today are extremely important, because they influence the preparation of policy. They actually work to get it actioned, and then ultimately it is executed, which gives the benefit of that policy to the people of the country. And that is why the three different ways the same thought is put is seen by different people differently. It's good enough for NAREDCO to look at the policy paper, but ultimately, does it provide enough on the ground? The answer is yes. Maharashtra has succeeded in order to convert a large number of good policies into action and then results. Of course, there have been cases where we haven't seen as much success as we would have liked to. Balasaheb Thackeray brought in the slum eradication plan for Mumbai. We haven't seen the kind of success that we would have liked to see. On the other hand, we have seen huge successes, like we have talked about it, infrastructure, about segments of housing, about environment, and that aspect of improvement of environment and the implementation of that. So all that and more is what we are going to receive in this panel today. So I am very excited to really start with Madam. You're always ladies first, but Madam, you lead the roost in terms of housing. Housing for all, har ek ko chhat chahiye. And I know your empathy for the poorest of poor, but I also know the fact that you have that fairness of implementation, which has been your record in terms of your career past too. So on the housing department, Madam, how do you see things? Because things have moved on in a very positive direction. And now with leading this department, how do you see what we have done till now and what we would like to do for the future? Looking forward, Madam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, for setting the tone in motion. And it's good to see such a distinguished audience ahead. But I was telling him I would much rather not talk about the housing policy until it gets a better shape, because otherwise it's just words, words, and no action. But I think the Honorable Minister has already discussed that in his address, so maybe I would start with that. As Dr. Hiranandani says, the world has changed. Post-COVID pandemic, we were thinking about how to get these changes incorporated into a new housing policy. Post-COVID, we have seen how the homes have had to become smarter. We are talking about virtual workforce happening. Even home sales were happening virtually. So in this changing world, we need to have a policy also which could answer all these questions and also make it more of a win-win both for the government and for the industry. So what are we looking at from this policy? Step one, what we decided in the department was, let us start by taking the wish list of all the stakeholders. Then we would segregate this wish list into what is possible, what is easily possible, what is possible, and what is not possible. And then see how to fit it within the framework of law. This exercise has already begun a month ago. We have written to all the concerned departments asking us what they would like the housing policy to be vis-a-vis their departments. So we have got a fair number of comments from the various concerned departments which we are working on. Secondly, we have started calling all the stakeholders, the private sector, and to ask the same exercise with them. In fact, day before yesterday, it was slotted for MCHI. Yesterday, we had slotted for NAREDCO, but they were, I think Sandeep had requested for a change in date. And we had another bigger delegation of developers from Pune yesterday on this. So because it's not just about Mumbai, so we are now meeting developers from Nashik, Aurangabad, Nagpur in the days to come. So we would like to reach out to every section of stakeholders, know what is it that the policy should hold for you, get the inputs, and then work on something which we think the government and the private sector can together do. Now, as an individual, what would I like the policy to be? I would like the policy to stress on more affordable homes. Under the affordable criteria, we have the largest number of homes being built in Maharashtra under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. In MMR, we have about 1.7 lakh homes under the economically weaker sections category, where the maximum annual income is 6 lakhs or less. So we want to look at more affordable homes. We want to look at more homes where there could be a better work-life balance. We want to look at homes where walk to work is possible. The site selection has to be very important. It has the access, connectivity to that site is of utmost importance when you choose such building schemes. We are looking at smarter homes. As I said earlier, we are already moved into a virtual world. So how to incorporate that into the building plans? We are looking at adapting new technology into these homes. How will the policy help us? It is how do we have the building information management system, which all of us, you would be aware of, how to make it a part of the policy. And as Ajay Mehta sir said that, how to make monitoring easier. So this BIMS could be a very important tool for all the developers and private sector to monitor the development of the projects. How do we make that a part of our policy? How to make the skilled manforce which the industry requires. We are talking about, the potential of housing is into trillions by 2047. So we need to have an adequate skilled manforce, which is really, really lacking in this sector. So how can we work together to make a skilling possible so that we have qualified skilled manpower for this sector? Again, RERA has done amazing work by certifying courses for agents. Similarly, we need to think about courses in skilling for every section which works in this housing sector. Apart from affordability, I am also looking at innovation. Innovation in technology, innovation in smarter homes is something which I think we should make a part of the policy. I would also, as one of my favorite themes in the housing policy, look at not only homes for the population, let us look at homes for specific categories. I always want stress on homes for senior citizens, which is not something which has not been in the forefront for any policy. We would look at senior citizens, we would look at student housing. So I think these two sectors we would like to incentivize in this new policy. We are a country of an aging population. Slowly we are inching towards that. And it's a social theme, not so much of a housing theme. But I think it's high time we all woke up to that and made sure that the senior citizens do have a place where they are able to live with dignity and with respect. And do I need to talk more about the policy? Because I think once I get to hear from all of you, then we'll work together. And we also plan that as and when the draft is ready, we would be putting it in the public domain and getting to know all the inputs, and only then would the policy be finalized. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's the process, as Seen is very transparent. Thank you very, very much. The problem which has happened, ma'am, about many of these things is the additional FSI that we got. And if you look at the land rate today in Mumbai, the ready reckoner rate, and if you add the different charges done by the corporation and the government for the purposes of the additional FSI, nothing in Mumbai suburbs can ever become affordable. So while we look forward to the policy, one of the base which you will have to look at, madam, is to see what is the cost of that additional FSI being done. Because even if we produce these houses on the basis of the cost of land and the charges done by the government, nothing becomes affordable in the city of Mumbai. So we look forward to that from you, madam, and look forward because you're talking about every segment of society. Thank you for that. The cities which are in great difficulty is where you have transport, communication, and other problems. I went to Bangalore. I wanted to go to 3 sites. I could only go 2 during that day because the traffic was so bad that we couldn't reach anywhere to the place I wanted to. And I did only 2 sites instead of 3 locations which were in different parts of Bangalore. Mumbai is also getting congested, but MMRDA is doing a wonderful job in terms of creating this infrastructure. How do you see, sir, this implementation getting done? And also, as you said to me in person, that you're not only doing what you're doing, but you're really going to do much more. So I am personally very excited to hear what you're going to say. And also for the city, I don't want to go the Bangalore way, where I go to that city and I can't reach all the places that I have. They've already stolen a lot of my IT businesses away. I'm sure that if you make the transportation and the thing better, we'll get those IT people to come back to Mumbai also. So, sir, what do you have to say about the infrastructure and that which will make Mumbai region and, of course, rest of Maharashtra into a great center in terms of communication, travel, and others? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. I think I should start by wishing all the engineers here a very happy Engineers Day, who have chosen their BE over not to be. And I also wish everybody, today is also the World International Ozone Day. So it's a day of the environment. So as we start our discussion on real estate and on infrastructure, this is what people commonly see as something most polluting. It is actually not the most polluting, but it is something which is most commonly seen as polluting. Now, as Madam said, housing has to happen, housing has to be affordable, and housing should be such that people are able to enjoy that house, which means the city has to be walkable, transportable. So as MMRDA is working, I have taken over the last 3 months in MMRDA, and prior to this, I was working in an organization called CITCO. Both of them are pretty similar. I always say that what these organizations have to do essentially is ki either you build the infrastructure and then you put the house or the industry or the commercial complex on it, or you have the house, a commercial complex and the industry already existing and then you put the infrastructure around it. Preferably you do the first way, but your preference is not what you have with you. So most of the time you have to do the other thing. And so it is a brownfield and blackfield development that we are having in Mumbai. That is the biggest challenge that we have. Now I think MMRDA has thought of it and it has done both the things. It has done a greenfield development like the BKC, which we would be very proud to know, has 2.8% of the country's GDP comes out of that one small 160 hectares. So that is something which every Mumbaiker should know and should be proud of. But the rest of Mumbai has grown in an organic way. So MMRDA is building roads, bridges, culverts, not only in Mumbai, but all around the Mumbai metropolitan area. The most talked about and our most important project is, of course, the metro project. And total 14 lines are planned. And out of these 14 lines, 10 lines are under execution. Total 337 kilometers of railway is going to be created. Today, out of 65% people that are using the public transport, only 2% are using the metro. That has to change, and 80% people have to use public transport. And out of that, 65% have to use the metro. So this is the journey which we have to traverse. And this is the journey on which we set foot first in 2015. And from there onwards, a long way has gone. Today, 3 metro lines are operational, and we would be, out of the remaining 10 metro lines that are there, so we would be operationalizing them one way on the other. The second thing is that as you unclog a city, you also have to focus on connectivity. And I think MMRD has done that in another way. Number one, if you see the metro lines, some of the metro lines actually should not be called metro lines. They should be called suburban lines, because they've gone all the way from Mumbai to Thane to Kalyan to Kasarwadi to Gaimokh to such places which are pretty far off. So I think Maharashtra is evolving its own railway network. And I wouldn't be surprised, like Mumbai and Navi Mumbai will be joined at some point of time with a railway network, a metro network. I wouldn't be surprised if the other parts of the hinterland would also be joined. And the direction of the policy seems to be in that direction. So one is the metro way. As you unclog, whether it is putting in metros or whether it is building bridges, like the Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link, the Worli-Sivri connector, the connector beyond the MTHL, whereby you try to connect suburban city and the city along with the Navi Mumbai hinterland and right down to Pune. So as you unclog, you also bring in a level equality sort of. What was 2 hours away becomes 30 minutes away. So Ulve becomes a neighbor to Worli. So that is the type of change that is being brought about in the real estate sector. And that is another thing, connectivity that MMRDA is doing. Now, the way the projects are progressing, I would not be very surprised that in the next 3 years, a lot of things will happen. And I would say that 25 is going to be a real watermark. Watermark in the sense that all the major projects, the coastal road, which is, Mehta sir is sitting right in front. So the Mumbai coastal road, then the Worli-Sivri connector, the MTHL, of course, by the end of this year, then the further connector to the Bombay-Pune Expressway, the Navi Mumbai International Airports, the road connectivity which is being done by CIDCO and NHAI in that area. All of these, bulk of these projects should materialize at that point of time. And as that will happen, I think that the job of MMRDA, which is essentially to provide infrastructure and which is essentially to, provide an ability, it is an enabler. That job, I think it will go from the first gear to second gear. And of course, we have to go to the third gear, then to the fourth gear, right up to 2047, as the Honorable Prime Minister said. And we have to see that it is not just developed India, but India which is #1 in the world in the true sense.
Sir, a consequent question, because you are in CIDCO, the development because of MTHL, what is going to paradigm change in CIDCO, NAINA, and that whole MSRDC corridor, which is coming up, which will be just 30 minutes from South Mumbai. So because you were in CIDCO, you have the full picture of that area, which I believe has empty land equivalent to half of Mumbai, right from there and Panvel and thereabouts. So you're actually getting a growth center which is second to none in the entire India, which is so close to Mumbai. So what is your view on that from the background of CIDCO that you have, sir?
Well, from the background of CIDCO that I have, I can only say that from MMRDA, we have proposed a new town where the MTHL lands. So we put our foot where our mouth is. So MTHL is supposed to be a game changer. And if we see in the Navi Mumbai sector, lots of things are happening independently. Like for instance, the Navi Mumbai International Airport is now at full swing. And those of you who travel by the helicopter would be seeing that work happening. And that work should be completed by December of 24, maybe before that. So that is the way that airport is going on, and that is expected to raise the national GDP by 1%. MTHL independently is supposed to raise the national GDP by 1%. These two things alone will ensure that MMR will be the fastest growing growth center in the entire country for the next decade. So these are not projects which are being thought of. These are projects which are now coming to the end of execution. Now, parallelly, CIDCO has started the work of, I'm seeing many CIDCO developers here, so they are aware. A lot of work has started at In Naina, all the town planning schemes are now approved, and CITCO will be starting the work of the road development. In fact, the first town planning scheme is already completed. So they will be doing that work. And MMRDA has now proposed to the government that they should develop a new town from MMRDA's side where the MTHL lands. And that new town will be another 350 square kilometers of area. So yes, that is going to be a growth center. And I think your vision is absolutely correct. And the days to come will, of course, tell us whether what we think is right or not.
Thank you, sir. Very exciting. Mr. Darade, you know, when we took up Powai, we took up quarry land that was 250 acres. When we have now built it, it's got 50 acres of gardens and forests and the largest sewage recycling plant in India. We all hear that environment and development is conflicting. How do we solve that answer? Because people are not able to understand that you're doing development, but in reality, you're improving the environment. Number two, India requires to do so much development. Half of Mumbai and Jopatpatti we have to redevelop. Roads we have to build. Metro we have to build. And still we have to take care of environment. Sir, leading this thing, how are you balancing the two and yet being able to do it? We are very grateful to you for the proactive action you have taken in the environment department, sir, and the proactive way that this thing is being done, and at the same time, being firm about what you want. I think you have done a wonderful balance between the two, so we are very grateful to you for that. But I thought we'll get a little higher level perspective and then dive deep into the issues of the environment, permissions, etc.
Thank you, Dr. Hiranandani. Thank you, NAREDCO, for inviting me for this today's session. And all of you are aware that environment is future. And all of us are aware recently we have just concluded G20 summit. The logo of our summit was also One Earth, One Family and One Future. So in the next century, environment is going to dominate. No matter whether you like it or you don't like it, we'll have to follow the sustainable development. While carrying out any development, that development has to be sustainable. We'll have to take into account the environmental impact and whether we are, by way of our development, improving environment or we are degrading the environment. So we'll have to find a fine balance between the environment and development. As far as public transportation projects are concerned, you have just heard from Metropolitan Commissioner of MMRDA. There are 14 lines planned in MMR region. With the implementation of these 14 lines, the carbon footprint will definitely drastically reduce. Even with the operation of one metro line, the carbon footprint will be more than planting crores of trees. So plantation is no doubt is very important, plantation of trees, but at the same time, the projects which you are carrying out from the development point of view, for transportation point of view, public transportation point of view, they are also equally important. As far as real estate is concerned, real estate is also coming out with lot of green projects, green development, certification of the buildings, green buildings. We have international councils which certifies, we have organizations like LEED, we have organizations like GRIHA, they're certifying your buildings. If we start using more and more environmental friendly material, I know there are limitations about availability of this material. There are cost considerations. We want housing for all, affordable housing, which is economical. At the same time, we want these houses also environmental friendly. And this environment friendly material or environmental sustainable material is no doubt, it is little costly. But if we look at it from the long-term perspective, we'll definitely will be able to achieve both the goals of development as well as environment. Recently, we have taken a lot of initiatives. After taking over as a Secretary Environment Department, I received a delegation from NAREDCO, MCHI, and CRIDI. And I promised them that most of your problems will be sorted out. We'll come out with the policies. They wanted consent to establish and consent to operate at par with EC. I immediately agreed and we issued the next day consent to establish. You pay the fees, we'll give you for 5 years. If you want for the 10 years at par with EC, we started giving the consent to establish. Same is the case with the consent to operate also. We are giving consent to operate also. If you pay fees for 5 years, you need not come every year to us. I don't want rush in my department also. If the minimum people visit my department, that is the best way of handling the government offices. So we are working in that directions. There are still issues about penalty fees and waivers. We are open for that. In today's forum, if you come out with your requirements, your issues still pending with the environment department, government department, policy changes, and if you can hand it over to my minister. Fortunately, my ministry is with the Honorable Chief Minister, and he is very positive. Both the Deputy Chief Minister and Chief Ministers are very positive. They want development in Maharashtra. If there are any issues as far as our policies are concerned, we are very much open, we are positive, and we will definitely bring the changes as far as Environment Department is concerned. At the same time, I would like to inform you that we are coming out with the State Action Plan for Climate Change. That is not going to be only a document, but we want that document to be implementable. So we are having 20 interns working in the Environment Department, and with the help of these 20 interns, we have identified the key departments: energy, transport, urban development department, agriculture, rural development, and they are following with this department what policy changes or initiatives in the long term so as to have a sustainable development as far as climate change is concerned, and we are coming with that document. We have district level action plan also for climate change. We want to go to the smallest level units like the cities. Cities should also have their action plan for climate change, and which should be not only a paper document, but which should be a measurable, implementable, and every year there should be a target how much you are going to implement and how much your carbon footprint is going to be reduced. Our Honorable Prime Minister has declared that by 2070, we have to become carbon neutral. So the race to carbon zero has already begun, and all of us need to work towards that goal. And we are working on that. More than 20 international organizations are working with the Environment Department. We are setting up a separate cell in Environment Department to be headed by an officer of the rank of Additional Collector. And we will be hiring the experts from this field of environment and climate change who will be supporting in our Environment Department cell, environment and climate change, so that whatever new things which are possible, whatever policy changes are required to be in consonance with the environment and climate change, we are very much positive, and we will work together to have a development as well as good environment.
Thank you, Mr. Darade, for a very positive view on how to take environment forward, right from the policy issues to actually implementation, and considering all the representations that have come to you. Madam, can we look at the two aspects of it which we have done? One, which we have done, housing in the departments of the government, which have done very effectively also, whether it's been CITCO, whether it's been MARDA, whether it's been the part of the slums which have been taken up, and now the Darade redevelopment scheme is actually a very implementation thing. Could we not think of a policy wherein we can really do this at a larger scale, similar to Darade, for all the pockets of Mumbai? The reason being that every project of slum, if implemented, can create surpluses of land and surpluses of money. So if government invests in a project, 1,000 crores of thing, you will get land back and maybe 2,500 crores of profit for each of the things, similar to what you have collected from the proposal which is coming from Darade. Can we get 25 such schemes handled, whether by departments of government, whether MARDA, whether SRA, whether CITCO, whether others? Even CITCO is taking up one project in Thane for the purposes of cluster development. So if 10 departments could take it up, including MCGM and other departments could be done, private developers also encouraged to take it in a big way, so that in the next 5 to 7 years, we have a project of zero slums for Mumbai. And number two, what Mr. Mukherjee just told us of having actually some of these surpluses shifted to Navi Mumbai and other places, because if we do development or redevelopment there and offer them maybe twice the area, if you go to Sitco or that area, we could possibly do it. So along with this housing scheme that you're coming up, why not a radical scheme which actually says zero slums in 2030?
That sounds, I hope it doesn't sound more like a dream, but we would be generally happy, because I think slum-free Mumbai is a slogan which we have been hearing over the years. But hopefully we'll all be alive to see that someday. I totally agree that a cluster-based development would be any day more preferable, more for the provision of amenities as well as the better housing stock creation in the city. In fact, you seem to have read our minds, because we are going to announce a new cluster development scheme in 3 clusters in MMRDA in less than a month. We are in the final stages of working out this cluster policy, and it's called a CNDA, Cluster and Development Agreement, where it would only encourage the cluster-based approaches. As you said, Dharavi is the biggest urban renewal mission in Asia, which is in the final stages of being awarded, and we'll have the MOU signing very soon. And I hope that would set the tone for many more such Dharavis to come in, where we look at the area as a large conglomerate of cluster. We have also done Kamatipura in the same manner, where you have about 28 acres of the whole Kamatipura under a single cluster. There are 3-4 such clusters which we have already worked on, and I am sure by the end of the year, we could probably be talking about cluster development in 10 prominent areas. Another point I wanted to add on, which the Secretary of Environment had said, is about sustainability as a part of the policy. We all have a notion that when you talk about something to be sustainable, it has to be for the luxury segment. It cannot work for the affordable section. We have proved it wrong now. The biggest economically weaker section housing scheme is now in the final stages in a place called Raynagar in Solapur. The Honorable Prime Minister is coming next month to inaugurate it. We have 15,000 houses on the ground and another 15,000 which are started work. And in this whole 15,000, every house is about 300 square feet, and the people who are eligible are the ones who have less than 3 lakh annual income. And we have made this entire scheme sustainable. So it is something we need to prove. It don't have to be only for the HIG or MIG or luxury segment. Even in an EWS, it is possible for us to do a fully sustainable green building. And as he said that, our target is net zero carbon emission. And real estate sector is one of the biggest carbon emitters because of the kind of materials we use. So if you could have a paradigm shift towards sustainability, I'm sure as a sector, we can contribute a lot to the climate change action plan. Another area of focus which we are looking at is to introduce ease of business in the housing sector in approvals. I don't know how many of you are working in SRA, but you would have noticed that there has been a lot of new policy changes in SRA which we have done. We have introduced Auto Annexure 2, where the whole process of creating Annexure 2 is not done manually, and as soon as it's done, it put it in the public domain in 7 days. We're using drone technology. We are linking it with Aadhaar identification to ensure that there are no loopholes in the preparation of the Annexure 2. We are also looking at a JV policy in SRA, where the projects which have been incomplete for a long time could be now completed by other government agencies like MMRDA, SIDCO, BMC, or MARDA, or a few of them. We are going to tender it out to developers who have been empaneled by us. We also have just launched the amnesty scheme, also as a means to complete the incomplete SRA projects. So this is a big policy shift we have done in SRA, which of course would be part of the housing policy as well.
Fantastic. It's very exciting to see what's going to be coming, and I guess a lot of new things appear to be in the housing scenario, so thank you very much for all that and all that. Mr. Sanjay Mukherjee, sir, two things which I saw when I traveled abroad many years ago. When I went to Singapore, when they were looking at a new township, they first made the metro, they made the access road, they made the center of gravity over there, proposed a hospital, school, and others, and then the rest of the housing followed. In our case, except for Sitco and other places, a few other places, what has happened is we allow the construction to come up, and then we follow with the road, then we follow with the metro and with the car. Is it possible, sir, as leadership in MMRDA, you could pick up one or two locations, MMR region, Sitco, Naina, whatever you want to do on the Virar side, anything, where we actually take infrastructure first? Like, for instance, you have the Delhi-Mumbai corridor coming down, your Virar, Alibag corridor happening. If we could actually take metro first, we could take mass transport first, and then we actually get the township done. Because normally what we find is the reverse is happening in the country. And because we didn't have the money. Today, you have so much money. I've never seen so much money in my life going into infrastructure in this country as I have seen both in India, and Mr. Gadkari always says there's no shortage of money for good projects in India, and MMRDA has proved the point much more than anybody else in the entire country. So, sir, two ideas. One, can we actually look at something like that? One. And number two, why is it that now you have so much money available for any number of good projects that happen to MMRDA? What is your secret?
I must say that as we discussed earlier, there are two models. One is that you put the infrastructure first, and post that you have the development. And the second one is that you allow the development to happen, and post that you go for infrastructure. The first model is, of course, the more desirable model. And the first model has been done in the Sitco jurisdiction. It has been done in Nagpur Improvement Trust in Nagpur. I think these are two places in Maharashtra where these models have been tried, maybe Bhubaneswar and maybe Chandigarh, at some very few places. The other model is, a model where development has come first. So ideally, I think the first model is the model to be. And I think the government is also thinking on these lines. Only thing is, initially when the first model was thought of, it was an entirely state-led initiative. So the state government acquires the land, and the state government, the government acquires the land, the government provides the roads, etc. And later on, government thought that why not involve the private sector? And, let's work hand in hand, ek bhagidari ho jaye, ek partnership ho jaye. Aur us prakar se then they bought in, say, the ITP policy came in. And when I was in Sitco, I used to always tell that we are partners. I build the roads and bridges, culverts, drains, but you have to build the houses on that. And unless people come and stay there, everything goes waste. So it is a partnership. Ideally, we should do the first level. MMRDA, and I think government of Maharashtra has been thinking about this, and MMRDA definitely has been thinking about this. And now today we are making, so it all starts by planning. So we are making the regional plan right from Palghar up to Alibag. So that process has started. In that, we have identified about 13 growth centers, and we have identified 2 new cities, new towns, which would be developed, where we would be trying to put in this model. Secondly, the other schemes of the government do exist, where development can come first. Having said that, it's just off the cuff, but India is today reaping a huge demographic dividend. And as they say, apna time kab aayega, to apna time aayega, abhi aa gaya hai. And we have 25 years, after which we will be losing that dividend. What have we been trying all the time? To reduce the population. But today we are, so you really never know how things pan out and what are the various imponderables that are playing out. So I think the other model which we are having, that also provides opportunity to various people, smaller developers, etc. And practically, it is perhaps not feasible to enter into every village, every town. So the other model will also exist. And so therefore, on one side, ideally, you have a new city and you have infrastructure first. On the other side, you follow the traditional model where, you know, there is a plan and there is regulation and there is violation, and for violation you have enforcement. Preferably option 1. Option 2, as they say, is, you know, anivarya or something like that.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Darade, sustainability has to have the last word because we have housing, we have infrastructure, but if we don't have sustainability, then what the Prime Minister wants in terms of growth with sustainability, which you talked about, zero carbon, what's your last word?
As far as environment and climate change is concerned, I said initially only, whether you like it or you don't like it, environment is going to be very important for the next century. So we'll have to work with the environment. We'll have to have development along with sustainability. So we'll have to find a ways of improving environment along with the development. Just, I told in my previous statement also, public transportation projects like metro projects, they are in consonance with the environment and climate change department. They are going to reduce huge carbon footprint when the people, we are building 14 lines with a carrying capacity of more than 1 crore passenger. At present, suburban trains have carrying capacity of hardly 40 lakhs people. And more than 70 lakh people are using these 230 trains of suburban trains. Because of that, we are losing more than 3,500 lives every year. On an average, 10 to 15 deaths every day, just because of overcrowding of our public transportation system in Mumbai. So it is a huge loss to mankind and human beings. So once this infrastructure is developed in Mumbai and MMR region, there will be huge relief and there will be no loss of human lives. At the same time, there will be huge reduction in the carbon footprint, and the projects which will reduce the carbon footprint, we need to give them a priority. We are giving them topmost priority as far as environmental clearance is concerned. That doesn't mean we are not giving priority to the real estate projects also. I would like to tell you that as far as environment department is concerned, we have zero pendency every month. Whatever proposal we receive in every month, we clear it in the next months. So we have come to that level. At the same time, at the lower level committees also, SCSC 1, 2, and 3 also, I have given them target. They also have to come to zero pendency every month. So for that, they will have to work little harder. I have given them a target. Initially, they used to take two meetings only every month. Now they have increased to 5 to 6 meetings. I have given them targets of 10 meetings every month, so that they will also come to the zero target by every month. Once we start, what is important is I would like to appeal to all the real estate developers that you should not be afraid of environment. You will have to work with the environment, and we are there to help you, support you, fast track your projects. If you have any difficulties, any issues, people do come to us and we try to find out the solution. But if you don't come to us, if you don't tell us your problem, we will not be able to sort out your problem. We will not be able to change the policies unless and until you point out the difficulties. Because you are working in that field, you know the problems, you know the issues much better than us. So unless and until you point out the issues, we will not be able to change our issues, change our policies, which will help, because ultimately, finally, you are contributing to the state growth, national growth. You are one of the largest unorganized sector employers through this industry. So what is important is we need to support you. Unless and until we support you, there will be no growth as far as development in this nation is concerned. So we'll work together. We'll do the development, keeping in mind environment. Thank you.
You know, Maharashtra is so lucky. We have great leadership in Eknath Shinde Sahib, Devendra Fadnavis Sahib, Ajit Pawar Sahib. But look at the kind of leadership in terms of bureaucracy that we have over here. You can see the minds are clear, the minds are far-sighted, the vision is clear, policies are in hand, and execution is moving. In all of them, you must have heard about ease of doing business, clarity of mind in what you want to achieve, and the methodology to do it. So I want to thank all of you for actually giving us an insight into each of these aspects of it, and a wonderful panel that I enjoyed to sit with you and be having you all three of you on my right side. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day. Thank you.